Hello everyone, my name is Kid Lee and today we're going to talk about Ashes of Creation, a new MMO that is currently in development by the developers at Intrepid Studios. We're going to talk about why I think you should keep an eye on this, and we're also going to talk about sort of the MMO genre in general. So if you don't know, the MMO genre is something that has really fallen off the last couple of years. I think in particular when EverQuest Next got canceled, that was a signal to a lot of developers that something is definitely happening in this genre, and that's why you really haven't seen a lot of new ones come out, especially from Western developers here in the last several years. You've seen a lot of ports happening, MMOs that were made over in like Korea and China coming over, stuff like Blade and Soul and Black Desert Online and a few other ones. Here recently with Ashes of Creation and Destiny 2, we've actually seen a little bit of a resurgence in the MMO market. We know that Destiny 2 in particular is going to be coming to PC hopefully this year or early next year, and then at some point beyond that is when we're going to see Ashes of Creation. Now, one thing that's really interesting about Ashes is the developers have been really open early on that they completely understand what is currently happening with the MMO market, and they know that they have to do something different to really get the people to come back and to actually go to their game. Now, the developers at Ashes have a pretty wide variety of games that they are actually coming from. Some of the developers have worked on the original EverQuest, EverQuest 2, EverQuest Next, PlanetSide, XCOM, Call of Duty, Vanguard, and even the old Star Wars Galaxies, which a lot of people know that's one of my favorite games of all time. As I mentioned a little earlier, Ashes of Creation is a game that's kind of popped up out of nowhere over the last couple of weeks, and it's really exploded on Kickstarter. They actually made $2 million in 2 weeks, and they're actually up to $3 million at the time that I'm shooting this video. When a new MMO is in development, if it's a game that I think that has potential, I will actually start taking a bunch of notes on it to try and keep everything straight as far as all of the new systems and combat and gameplay and all that fun stuff. So here for Ashes, over about the last week, week and a half or so, I've been poring over all of the details for this game, watching all of the developer streams and videos, and right now I'm sitting at about 3.5, 4 pages of notes. So what I want to do is I want to go over a bunch of the bullet points for this game and why I think you should be keeping a very, very close eye on this one. As I've been talking here, I've been playing some videos in the background. The first thing to note is this game looks beautiful. It might very well be the best looking MMO that is going to be out. I mean, I think Destiny 2 is also going to look very good, but this one in particular, a lot of the lighting shots just look very, very nice. So let me go ahead and rapid fire some bullet points, and then we're going to get into a couple of the key systems. So by the end of the year, they are planning to have at least 40 developers working on this game. They're going to do a bunch of hiring throughout the summer and the fall to get themselves up to about the 40 dev mark. There is going to be more than one server for this game, and security overall is something that is going to be very, very important to them. They actually started building the game with security in mind. There's also going to be no factions in this game. No pay to win. Your characters will have a weight limit that can be upgraded. There is going to be day-night cycles and seasons. Now, I know what I just said was very rapid fire and kind of all over the place, but that's a very, very quick little snippet of some of what is going to be in this game. As you can imagine, it's going to have your standard classes. It's going to be in that fantasy type setting. So if you've been playing a lot of sci-fi games recently and you want to go back to sort of the fantasy setting, this game will be able to do that for you. But let's go ahead and get into the really big thing, the first big thing that's going to make this game different, and it's going to be called the node system. In a lot of MMOs, they have what they call zones, And this game is going to feature something very similar, except for they're going to call it nodes. When you jump into the game for the first time, you will be entering a zone. And the zone, it could be a forest, it could be, a grassland of some description. And you're going to start questing, you're going to start killing things, you're going to start gathering. When you are doing things as a player, that is actually going to be putting points, and I'm sort of saying that in quotation marks, but you're basically going to be building that node without even realizing that you're doing it. Now, these nodes are actually going to build based on player activity. And they're going to start small, so once a node goes from, let's say, 0 to 1, it'll be maybe a campfire with a couple of tents. And then from there, you're able to actually grow it and grow it and grow it. And it'll expand from that to maybe a small little village and more tents to a city, to a metropolis, and so forth and so on. As the community, continues to work on and build these nodes, NPCs will actually come in and join. There'll be quest givers and vendors and all kinds of stuff. These nodes are completely player run. Eventually, when you are actually able to build up the node, let's say it becomes a town or a city or a village, you're actually able to take your character or even your guild and actually commit yourself to a particular node. Each node is also able to have its own player-run government. Now, each node is not dedicated to just one player or one guild. You can actually have multiple guilds that have committed themselves to a node and actually becomes a community within itself. And there's going to be multiple nodes across the land. And I've been showing some videos here on screen that will help me explain this a little bit better. Once you have a node established, you're actually able to select a node type: scientific, economic, military, or divine. Once you have your specialization picked out, you can actually select different types of buildings and different types of things that will actually happen in these nodes. Player housing is also going to be a big part of the game, and normally when a game has player housing, it's sort of just one thing. It's like, here's our player housing, do whatever with it. This game actually has 3 different types of player housing, which is really unique. Inside the nodes themselves, there will actually be 2 different kinds of housing. There's actually going to be a number of set housing to where you could actually put a few of your guild officers if you want. And then the second one is actually instance apartments, which is going to be the second option. And all of these will grow and expand with the size of the node itself. And then finally, the third type of housing is what they're called freeholds, and these are actually placed outside of the towns. You're able to place these absolutely anywhere that you want. Again, if anybody played Star Wars Galaxies, you could place your houses and your player towns wherever you wanted. Think about that. So these freeholds, you can place them wherever you want, and you're actually able to work on the land, do farming and smelting and blacksmithing, and place a few little buildings on your plot of land in addition to your house. So that's sort of a very quick glance at the housing system. But if I go ahead and very quickly just sort of scroll through my notes, hitting up a few more key points, the game is going to have a full storytelling system, sort of a campaign, if you will. And it's actually possible that the story will play out different for every server. They're actually putting in modifiers, so based on how the nodes turn out, what quests may or may not appear, the overall story of the game can be different server per server. In addition, there's also going to be open world PvP that include sieges. So I've talked a bunch about these nodes. Well, you could, in theory, have a war going on with 2 different nodes. You might be against somebody else, And I guess if they get mad enough at you, or maybe some other group comes in, they can actually come up with catapults and all kinds of things, and they can try and destroy your node. So big PvP and big social aspects are possible in this game. As far as professions, or whatever word they're going to use for that, in one of the videos that I watched, they actually mentioned words like shopkeeper, innkeeper, run a dance hall, run a theater, run a storefront. So if you remember back in the original EverQuest, or again back in Star Wars Galaxies, on how, as far as the player crafting system or the player economy, how you were able to actually run your own shops, they are going to be doing something very similar to that in this game as well. And sort of along the same lines, they have also mentioned social areas, player music, player food and meals, and player-made quests, which will be really cool. Different category here real quick, animal husbandry. They're actually going to have breeding, capturing, and taming stats, and traits, and mounts. So if you're a person who loves doing that, capturing animals, breeding, and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be there as well. For PvP, I mentioned the sieges a little bit earlier. They're also doing 1v1, 3v3, 5v5 arenas, full open world, collecting rare resources via PvP. You will have the same gear PvE and PvP, which is pretty cool. And then they're also going to be doing straight up guild wars with objectives that can end. You know, there's a lot of other games out there that'll do the guild wars, but it's kind of like, you're just kind of fighting all the time, and, you know, who cares or whatever, right? This is actually, you can enter into a guild war with objectives so there can be a clear winner, and that is really, really cool. They're also talking about, I mean, this is kind of under the maybe category right now, but they're also talking about naval combat. They're talking about stuff on the ocean, below the ocean, trade routes, islands, combats, and they might have some kind of a profession based around that. They also have a symbol creation system in the game for guilds, for armor, for ships, to really be able to customize your stuff. Caravans, which is a major system of the game, and I might have to do a completely separate video about this because it's so detailed. But basically, when you have your nodes out there, you can actually be friends with other nodes out there. With the character weight limit thing that I mentioned at the start of the video, you can't really carry resources around all the time, so you have to store the stuff. If you want to make a big trade with another node, you actually create a caravan, and you have to manually escort your caravan from node to node. There's an above ground and underground for the caravan system. So will probably have to do guards from your node, have guards from the other node, and everybody working together to try and safely move this caravan, because it can be attacked by another group, other players, maybe NPCs. And from what the devs have been saying, there's a lot more to the caravan system than what they've talked about, so that should be pretty cool. Next, they are going to have a full in-game voice over IP system, and there will be full mute options if you don't want to hear people, so that is always pretty cool. As far as the economic system, there's going to be a full economic system. A couple of the notes I have on that here real quick is that it will be region-based, and going into the node system a little bit more, it will be possible to do economic sabotage on the nodes. Pretty cool idea on that. They're also talking about doing a full market system. This is something that's currently in the maybe stage, and I believe it was actually one of their upper tiers on their Kickstarter as well, which at this point they may have hit it. But basically, just the market system is just going to have a lot of stats that you'll be able to see, progression against other nodes, quest lines that can be completed for actually the market stuff, and just a lot of really cool stuff that's going to be happening. Going to guilds for a second. Guilds will be able to have their own headquarters. As I mentioned before, guilds will be able to declare citizenship to a node if they choose to. Of course, I mentioned the Guild Wars system, which is pretty cool. And you can have a Guild War system, or a Guild War, I should say, with a guild that is perhaps in the same node you are in. Maybe some friendly competition as well. And they are looking at lots of guild rank options as well. In addition to all that, they're also going to have an organization system. You could almost say like out of Elder Scrolls, if you want to call it that, but you can actually join up with an organization like a Thieves Guild, Trading Company, and Scholars Academy that is all going to have a progression system of its own. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's a very quick little snippet of Ashes of Creation. I went over a lot of stuff very, very quickly. But I'd really love to hear your feedback on this. If you would like to see me do more videos on this, maybe going into even greater details on some of the things I went over very quickly, I would be happy to do so. I've been thinking for a while now that I need to do a second game on my YouTube channel, and this might be it. I'm kind of thinking that right now. But yep, ladies and gentlemen, that'll go ahead and do it for this quick look at Ashes of Creation. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. Thank you all so much for watching. And with that being said, everybody keep playing and have fun.